Broadcast booth at Yankee Stadium, the rubber match of this three-game series between the Mets and the Yankees. Sunday night baseball presented by Taco Bell, the Subway Series here in April, the earliest they've ever had this series. Dan Schulman, John Kruk, Kurt Schilling, glad you're with us here tonight in the Bronx. The Mets, one of the best stories in baseball. A ton of Met fans are here in the Bronx to cheer on their team tonight, and they've really had a lot to cheer about over the first 3 weeks of the season, including a guy in Lucas Duda, had a great year last year and off to a good start this year.
He did have a great year last year, but struggled against lefties, and he knew he had to make some changes, Dan, and he made some changes, and it's all for the better. 2014, 32 home runs, 6 in the National League, but this year it's going to be a lot better. It might not be 32 home runs, but the consistency, putting the ball in play, driving in runs with base hits is what Lucas Duda is going to be all about.
And this may surprise a lot of people. The Mets are third in the National League in offense, third in the league in runs scored. They're second in the league in ERA. That may not be as big a surprise. They got a pretty good lefty on the mound tonight.
They do, and this is when you're looking at the Mets this year and going forward, and you have a guy like this, Jonathan East, who I think is back to his old form of a couple years ago. Down in your rotation at your 4th spot or maybe your 5 spot, you've got a deep rotation. No one was expecting the offense, I think, early in the year, but now we're seeing the pitching and the offense. And, you know, they win tonight. They're 8 games in the loss column up, and that's a lot of games to make up over any amount of time.
One thing that Terry Collins, the Mets manager, will talk about is the addition of both on the field and in the clubhouse that Michael Cuddyer has been. He spoke moments ago with our Buster Olney.
But in as an older player to a young team, what did you want to bring to the table?
I think just playing the game the right way. You know, these guys have loads of talent over here, and you know, I think having a presence, having somebody who's kind of been through some things before is nice, and you know, hopefully you can rub off on them.
What do you see in center fielder Juan Lagares?
You know, I've had the pleasure of play next to some pretty good center fielders. Torrey Hunter comes to mind when I think of Juan. The way he positions himself, the way he goes after the baseball, and then the way he can catch the baseball, the glove skills reminds me a lot of Torrey. It seemed like no matter what position he was in, Torrey was able to catch the ball. Juan's right there with him.
Michael, thanks. Dan, back to you.
So there's the Mets story, 14-4, the best record in baseball. You can make a case, too, that the Yankees, who started 3-6, now at 10-8, that they've been a bit of a pleasant surprise as well. They had some ugly defense early, and we're really dealing with a lot of things. Tonight we're going to see a guy with about as much velocity as any starting pitcher in baseball. What can you tell us about Nathan Eovaldi?
He throws really, really hard. This is a kid who the upside is just enormous. And where he's, I think, got to take that last step, his fastball command here. Everybody talked about his last start being his best in a while. He threw the fastball in, dominated on the inside part of the plate, mixed that in with a wipeout slider, which is what you got your 7 innings out of. This is a guy who should strike out far more than a hitter in an inning. And what it tells you is he doesn't yet have command of his fastball.
Offensively, who catches your eye?
Well, Alex Rodriguez. A big surprise to me is the power. I thought he would be able to hit. I thought he'd figure that out. But the one thing with Alex is you're going to have, I think, throughout this season is he's a guess hitter, a dead guess hitter. You're going to have bouts where he looks great like he did in Tampa when he hit the ball almost 500 feet. And then you're going to have bouts like he's in now, struggling offensively because he's guessing wrong. But if he guesses right, the bat speed's there.
He struggled against Matt Harvey yesterday, but a lot of hitters struggled against Matt Harvey yesterday. It's the Subway Series. We've got Yankee fans and we've got a lot of Met fans here in the Bronx as the team with the best record in baseball. The New York Mets tries to take 2 out of 3 in a series that has always created emotion and drama between these two teams. Friday night, Mark Teixeira, not 1 but 2 homers and a Yankees win, but the Mets come back behind the dark night yesterday and even up the series. It'll be settled here tonight. Taco Bell. Defect to the next generation of breakfast. Wake up, live Mas. And in part by BMW. We only make one thing, the ultimate driving machine. Terry Collins, the manager of the New York Mets, endured some difficult years where really there was not a whole lot of talent on this roster. His 5th season as Mets manager, they averaged a 76-86 record over the first 4, but boy, was he confident coming into this season. And the players have been confident too, and it has paid off thus far. They're playing great. They are 14-4, and Crucky Juan Lagares showing he's more than just a Gold Glove award.
Yeah, we all know about the defense, arguably the best center fielder in the game of baseball, but now the offense is starting to catch that, hitting over 296, hitting 296, 4 hits yesterday, and he is becoming a two-way player that the Mets had hoped he would.
Of course, the Mets are without David Wright on the DL with a bad hamstring. They're dealing with a lot of injuries, actually, but they still have the best record in baseball. Former Yankee Curtis Granderson will lead it off. And the first pitch of the night from Nathan Eovaldi is outside for ball 1. His 4th start of the season for the former Dodger and Marlin. Picked up a win in his last start Tuesday against Detroit. A guy who has always had great velocity, as Kurt talked about, but has given up a ton of hits, more hits than innings pitched. The strikeout's not as high as you would think. Foul ball up the first baseline. And he faces a guy who spent 4 years with the Yankees in Curtis Granderson. Granderson is not hitting a ton so far this year, just 220. His walks are up, his strikeouts are down, so that is encouraging the Mets. But he's only driven in 4 runs, and all of them came in 1 game against the Braves earlier this week.
So what you're trying to say is they're looking for more consistency.
1-2 and a hard slider down and in. 2 balls, 2 strikes.
That was the pitch that everybody talks about his last start. Went inside with his fastball and threw some great sliders.
Eovaldi often will get to 2 strikes, but then has trouble putting the hitter away at times, as Granderson tries to fight him off. What do you see, Schill, as the reason he can get to 2 strikes but not get to 3?
Well, he's still in some ways a thrower, and that pitch was a great example. You're trying to paint that ball down in a way, he's trying to throw the ball harder, and he's just got to take that last step of understanding control is throwing strikes, command is being able to move the ball around in the strike zone.
Upstairs, full count. You saw that last number, that hitters are hitting 324 off him once they get to 2 strikes. The major league average is 166.
And again, throwing balls in the strike zone is why.
And that tells you too that when you're facing a guy like Eovaldi, is you can be patient with him. You know he's going to throw a lot of pitches, but you know that with 2 strikes he doesn't have that, apparently he doesn't have that put away pitch, or you can pick up the ball so good in his hand that hitting with 2 strikes is not a big issue against him.
Again, the 3-2. And it's out of play off to the left, and Granderson will see a 9th pitch.
That pitch right there, though, is a game changer. If he can throw that ball right there at will, then it changes everything. As a hitter, you can't look on both sides of the plate at 98. You have to pick one. And John, even if you can see the ball well at 98.
Yeah, if you're not looking for it in the exact spot he's throwing it, you're done. Tough to make that adjustment, Danny, at 98.
High in the air, right center field, deep to the wall. It is gone. What an at-bat by Granderson, and a leadoff home run for the Mets here in the top of the first. What a deflating way to start a game that must be for Nathan Eovaldi. Throwing the ball hard, throwing all of his pitches, getting to an early 2-strike count, getting ahead of the hitter, and then Granderson just battling and hitting one out. His 29th career leadoff home run, and the Mets strike early here on Sunday night.
I think that's one of that old adage, don't walk the leadoff hitter. And, Curtis fouled off a couple pretty good pitches and got one he liked.
Lagares slashes one into right field for a base hit.
That's what we talked about is he can throw strikes. He doesn't walk a lot of guys. He doesn't command his fastball. And here's why. You look where the glove is going to be on this pitch. He's looking for a fastball down and away. Now, you don't have to do anything other than throw the ball in that area. Look where he's reaching. That ball's middle. That's why guys are hitting over 300 with 2 strikes. I don't care how hard you throw. If the hitter doesn't have to be afraid of either corner, you're in trouble. And if you notice, too, these guys are swinging pretty comfortably off a guy that throws 97, 98 miles an hour. He has the ability to change that.
So a home run for Granderson, a base hit for Lagares, who went 4 for 4 yesterday. And now here's Lucas Duda. The shift on as he takes the curveball, low ball 1. Shill, you said it, but maybe it bears repeating. Control is the ability to throw strikes. Command is the ability to throw where you want in the strike zone.
For the most part, everybody in the big leagues has control. Everybody up here can throw strikes. Command is the ability to manipulate the ball in the strike zone. What he hasn't yet learned, or it hasn't been taught yet, is that his fastball at 98 can be 6 pitches. Down and away, down and in, middle out, up and in, up and away.
There's a ball hit hard down the right field line, but he pulls it foul.
And that's ultimately, you can be literally a 2-pitch pitcher. You can throw fastball split if you throw 98 and command the fastball.
I think the other issue, too, when you're facing a guy like Eovaldi is you saw the first pitch to Lagares, a slider down and away, way off the plate for a ball. He's trying to throw his strikeout pitch on the first pitch. Same thing with Duda, the breaking ball down in the dirt. He's trying to throw his best pitch on the first pitch.
Duda going the other way down the left field line, and that is going to drop in foul. Just foul down the line.
And that is a great example. He's throwing the ball 98 miles an hour. That ball is pretty much center cut. Down bottom part of the strike zone. Center cut, he still was a day late on that ball. Watch. That ball's middle. Great spot for a left-handed hitter. Dream spot. And he's late. That's how good his stuff is.
Duda homered yesterday off CC Sabathia, hitting .323 on the young season. And Lagares driven back.
I think if I'm Lagares, I might think about running here because Duda's probably not going to get another fastball. Eovaldi's going to want to strike him out, and the strikeout pitch seems to be that slider, hard slider down and in if he can get it to the back foot of Duda.
He is running, and it swung on and fouled off. Nice call, Crucky.
Well, like Kurt said, he has command. He can throw strikes, but in this situation, he's given up a homer to leadoff hitter, a base hit. The last thing he wants to do is to get an even count with Duda up. With Lagares still on first base.
As you can see, they don't run often and they don't run successfully against Eovaldi. He's allowed only 1 stolen base in his last 46 starts. Lagares not running here.
Well,
that's 2-2.
That's a guy that grew up in the National League, having to be quick to home out. And one of the things that Crucky just made a really good point. The last thing in the world you want you don't want a young pitcher to be afraid of contact. You get your fastball hit around the first. You can't go away from it. You need that pitch. Sometimes they'll move away from a fastball 2 strikes out of fear of contact.
Well, the Mets came into this series on an 11-game winning streak and then lost Friday night. Mark Teixeira hit a couple of home runs. And then the Mets came back yesterday behind Matt Harvey, who went 8 2/3 and picked up the win. Runner going, 2-2 pitch, swung on, hit to center field. Back is Young, racing back, makes the catch. Around second was Lagares, and he will slide safely back into first.
Great play by Chris Young, but again, you're 3 hitters into this game, and Nathan Eovaldi's not made the quality of pitch that he wants to just yet. But you see that pitch, he wanted it in. It ends up floating back in the center of the, floating back at 97, but it floats back to the center of the plate, and Duda put a great swing on it. different situation, maybe not with 2 strikes. Could be a different outcome for Lucas Duda, but 2 strikes you want to protect. You wait a little bit longer. That's why he hit it to dead center. And Chris Young with a pretty Juan Lagares-like play.
So Lagares back to first, 1 down, 1-0 Mets. The batter is Michael Cuddyer, who grounds 1 down to third. Nice play by Headley, and they will get Cuddyer for the second out. Lagares into second on the play.
This is something that Chase Headley can do. There's no doubt about how smooth he is as a third baseman. Well, you tell you what, he needed every bit of that long frame he had. Catches that in the web, but and that's the thing you notice about more of a veteran player. He knew he had time with Michael Cuddyer running, not a plus runner. Take your time, get up, make a good throw, and now let's see if we can get Murphy out here and limit the damage to just 1-0.
Murphy hitting just 145 on the season. Did have a big day Thursday, drove in 4 against Atlanta. A guy who's always been a tough out, but is really scuffling out of the gate here this season.
Yeah, the numbers there just don't play out to what kind of hitter he is. To me, the best pure hitter on the New York Mets lineup. Whether David Wright is there or not, I think, and just off to a slow start, and if he turns it around, another little weapon for Terry Collins.
Yeah, Murphy's a 290 career hitter and has averaged 38 doubles a year the last 3 years. And that'll go right through Teixeira and all the way down the line into the corner. Lagares is in to score, and into second goes Murphy as the Mets have a 2-0 lead. Larry Rothschild heading to the mound to talk with Eovaldi, and Teixeira probably trying to regroup after that ball just about took him down into the right field corner.
Well, Mark Teixeira is one of the better first basemen in the game of baseball and has been pretty much his entire career, but this is self-defense right here. I mean, this is a one-hopper that bounces up. I mean, he is lucky. Mark Teixeira is lucky. He's still got all his teeth left on that one, because that one came up on him hard and just ate him up. I mean, he's breathing deep right now. Not upset that he didn't catch it. Happy that it didn't hurt him.
It's an RBI double for Murphy, and the Mets on top 2-0 here in the top of the first inning in the Bronx. The batter is Eric Campbell, who is filling in at third base for the injured David Wright on the DL with a strained hamstring. Campbell takes a slider in for a strike. Let's go down to Buster Olney.
Guys, in the case of Murphy, this was getting immediate results. He came out about 5 hours before the game, took batting practice, and they moved him close to the plate. They felt like he was getting beat too often away. You see him get the hit there.
All right, Buster, thank you. 0-2 now the count on Campbell. Murphy out at second, 2 down.
That swing right there is very telling. That's a 97-mile-an-hour 0-1 fastball in the inside part of the plate. He's swinging like he's looking at it, like that's the pitch he was looking for. And for a guy with this good of stuff, those swings shouldn't be taking those kind of swings.
Bouncer to third. Hitting over. But it's a rough 2-run 25-pitch inning for Nathan Eovaldi, including the leadoff home run that he gave up to Curtis Granderson. And through half an inning here in the Bronx, the visiting Mets, with the best record in baseball, lead the Yankees 2-0. Baseball presented by Taco Bell. Watching the Mets and the Yankees tonight, reply using hashtag #RepMyTeam with a picture of how you're supporting your team, whichever team it may be, and your tweet could appear on the telecast tonight. Brett Gardner is going to lead it off for the Yankees. Left-hander Jonathan Nice is on the mound for the Mets. Nice 2-0 with an ERA of 1.50, 150 through 3 starts this season. Had some shoulder trouble both last year and the year before, but appears healthy now. Best year was back in 2012 when he went 13-9 with a 3.40 ERA, and with the strength and depth of this Met rotation, they don't need him to be a 1 or a 2. He probably slots in there maybe as the 4-man right now in the Mets rotation, but as you can see, he's put up some pretty good numbers going back to last year. 2 earned runs or fewer in 7 consecutive starts.
Yeah, that's what you're looking for more than anything, is that start-to-start consistency.
And Gardner takes a borderline strike. The count is 1-2. Gardner, Chris Young, and Alex Rodriguez, the top third of the order for Joe Girardi's Yankees tonight. No Jacoby Ellsbury in the Yankee lineup. A sore hip suffered on a sliding catch last night, so he is out of the lineup tonight. Pretty good looking curveball there that just swept across the plate.
Yeah.
Comes right back with it, and a foul back by Gardner.
I was going to say, if you're a hitter, tonight's one of those nights when you can work to get out the schneid, because Jim Wolf, amazingly, is a pitcher's brother. Randy Wolf's brother is much more, I think, a hitter's umpire than a pitcher's. See, he made an adjustment. That ball's a little off. He moved it back in. When you're doing that with your breaking ball, you got feel.
Chopper to third. Campbell fires it on to first, 1 down. Look at the Yankee lineup tonight, presented by Taco Bell. As mentioned, no Jacoby Ellsbury in the lineup. Alex Rodriguez is in anywhere from 2nd to 7th. All 6 spots. 2nd through 7th in the Yankee lineup. Mark Teixeira has hit 3 home runs already in this series. Carlos Beltran is struggling, hitting just 173 so far. A-Rod on deck right now, batting in the 3 spot tonight. Chris Young is starting in center, batting second, and the guy who was released by the Mets last year because he was struggling so badly. A couple of weeks later, picked up by the Yankees, finished the season strong, and he has started this one strong for the Yankees. And he's actually been eating into Beltran's playing time in right field in recent days, and they're in center tonight for the ailing Ellsbury.
And I was just going to say, the way Beltran is struggling, you know, Chris Young has been a big help to the Yankees offense, because you know they couldn't just keep sending Beltran out there and have him continue to struggle. So you know, naturally, Chris Young, give him a couple opportunities. He made the most of it, and he's getting a lot of playing time now.
Fouled back below us, still 1-2 on Young. You see Beltran looking on from the Yankee dugout. Beltran now 38 years of age and signed through the end of next season. Another play for Campbell. Terry Collins gave him about as big a compliment as you can give a guy. He said, you know what, he's just a baseball player. He loves the way, all the little things that Campbell has done offensively and defensively, filling in for David Wright. 2 outs here in the bottom of the first, and here's A-Rod. A-Rod got off to a great start this season, but he has cooled off. He is 3 for his last 24. Went 0 for 4 with a couple of strikeouts against Matt Harvey yesterday.
Yeah, it's a little different animal than Matt Harvey. You know, Jonathan Nice is a quality major league pitcher, but he doesn't possess 97 with movement and 3 other pitches that might be better than that.
Well, this is what we talked about in spring training. If A-Rod was going to be good this year, he was going to pound lefties. He's been better than everybody expected, but this is the matchup that you want.
Big cut and a foul off, 2-1. 3 for 8 with a homer in his career against Nice.
You saw the numbers, 344, and then, you know, for the first however many games, and then the struggle started. And, you know, that's what happens when you're a guest hitter. And you're looking at, you know, this is what we thought coming out of spring training, that they were going to pound him in to see if he can get to the inside fastball. Jonathan Nice has just thrown him 2 fastballs, none of them 90 miles an hour or better, and they've jammed him.
Off-speed pitch, hit high in the air, right center. This one is off the top of the wall and gone. Alex Rodriguez with an opposite field home run, career number 659, and the Yankees now trail 2-1.
We talked about Alex Rodriguez being a guess hitter, and I guess the 2 fastballs that jammed him tells you that he was sitting on a breaking ball, because Jonathan Nice tried to roll up a breaking ball with 2 strikes, and he left it out over the center of the plate. We know the power he possesses the other way.
And that was literally the first mistake he made this inning, Jonathan Nice.
Now one back of Willie Mays for 4th on baseball's all-time list. More on that over the course of the evening. Campbell recovers, and the low throw cannot be dug out by Duda. And Teixeira will reach on what should be scored an error on Eric Campbell.
If you watch this, now we're going to go back and watch Alex's home run. Look where right before the pitch, the catcher says, hey, listen, I want you to bounce this ball, thinking exactly the right thought, and look where he ends up with the pitch. He has to be sitting breaking ball in that situation, and he kept it up. But if you watch right before that, the catcher, he's wiping the dirt with the glove like, I want the ball down. And before that, he had hit every spot or missed where he was going with every pitch.
2-1 the score, bottom of the first, runner at first, 2 down, and here's Beltran. Line foul and an 0-2 count.
Well, this is when you have a strong man at the plate and he's looking for a pitch and he gets it. I mean, even though right there it looked like he had a little bit of a hesitation, the hand stayed back, and that tells you that he was looking for something off speed, and if he got it, he was not going to miss it. And great hitters don't miss what they're looking for.
Second pitch of the inning for Nice. So Eovaldi threw 24 in the top of the first, and Nice has thrown 22 here in the bottom of the first. And he gets him with a strike over the outside corner. End of an inning in the Bronx. Alex Rodriguez cutting into the Mets lead with his 5th home run of the season, the 659th home run of his career. Mets 2, Yankees 1. Underway in the top of the second on Sunday Night Baseball. The Mets lead the Yankees 2-1 as Met shortstop Wilmer Flores takes a strike from Nathan Eovaldi. Flores, Danny Muno, who is DHing tonight, and then Kevin Plawecki, a rookie catcher, due up for the Mets this inning, facing Nathan Eovaldi. Flores is on an 8-game hitting streak right now, and he's hitting .400 over that stretch. He won the shortstop job for the Mets in the spring, beating out Ruben Tejada. This was seen as maybe a really a big potential problem area for the Mets, but Flores has certainly swung the bat well as he takes a slider just below the zone. Right center field. Beltran tracking it, one down.
One of the things I was talking about earlier was command, fastball command, and one of the challenges for Nathan Eovaldi is his delivery. He has a delivery, a finishing delivery. If you watch his leg, a soft front side is kind of what you're after. You're looking for this little bend, and you can see where his leg is bent, but look where the ball is. The ball's still in his hand. Now watch what happens when he starts the ball. As the ball's coming out of his hand, look at his leg. His leg goes back in that direction as the ball's coming out of his hand. The only way you can do that is if you're decelerating before you let go of the baseball. And that makes it next to impossible to throw the same pitch consistently back to back to back.
So the velocity won't suffer, but the command will?
Not really. He could actually grab another mile or two if he finished through his delivery. But he's got that stiff front leg. You see a lot of guys with that stiff front leg, but they do it after they let go of the baseball. This makes it so hard to repeat your mechanics and your release point. That's filthy.
Muno strikes out, 2 down.
Well, here's what Kurt's talking about. When you can't command the fastball, it doesn't matter how hard you throw it. Nathan Eovaldi couldn't get that done. You see the one right there. Kurt showed it. Wanted it away, got it in. He wanted that one in, and it drifted over the center of the plate. And he actually got that one kind of where he wanted to. But Murphy, with the quick bat, hits the ball past Teixeira. You know, he needs to clean that up because they have had a lot of good swings so far off of him in these 2 innings.
2 down, nobody on, and here's the rookie catcher Kevin Plawecki, just 24 years of age. Called up earlier this week when Travis d'Arnaud went on the DL, was hit in the hand by a pitch, suffered a broken bone, out for several weeks. Plawecki hit his first major league home run yesterday.
I thought you said Jim Wolf was a hitter's umpire. Man,
that was a great pitch.
Apparently, if you're a pitcher.
1-2. Whenever you talk to anybody about Eovaldi, the first thing you hear is amazing stuff, filthy stuff. And everybody expects that at some point maybe he'll be able to turn the corner, get deeper into games, give up fewer hits, finish hitters more quickly.
He's still young too. That's the beautiful thing. But he teases you with that stuff. When you see what he just did right there, it's like, okay, wait a minute. Why can't you do that every pitch? And Crucky, the thing I'm curious about, I don't feel like there's any urgency on the part of the hitter. Like, you get a guy that's throwing 97 with a split, and you're trying to get the bat on the ball. Looks like guys go up there just waiting for their pitch. That
swings over the top of the slider, a couple of strikeouts, and a 3-up, 3-down inning, a much better inning for right-hander Nathan Eovaldi. team, the Michael Busick Little League team, visited with the Baseball Tonight crew and was down in the field for batting practice before the game. They are named for police officer Michael Busick, who was killed in the line of duty in Manhattan in 1988. Eventually, a league was started where every team is named for a fallen police officer. Over 8,000 kids have gone through this league in the last 27 years. There are currently 28 teams in the league. And these kids had a chance not only to visit with the Baseball Tonight guys, but also, as we mentioned, head down on the field and, among others, spend some time with Mr. October, Reggie Jackson, in the house tonight. There's a swing and a ground ball off the bat of Headley out to short, on to first in time, one down.
I love Reggie. Fun talking to him.
He's an original, isn't he?
He is not bashful. But, you know, I use him, and I talked to him this spring about it as a teaching tool to kids when I talk to kids and coach kids. He was in spring training with the Angels my rookie year when I was a Padre. And at 40 years old, he hit 2 or 3 ground balls to second base, and he ran as hard as anyone to first.
That's a fair ball off the bat of John Ryan Murphy down into the left field corner. Murphy getting a start in place of Brian McCann tonight with a left-hander on the mound for the Mets, and he's got himself a double.
Well, you love young hitters who come up, swing aggressively, and you see the pitch. Middle end, first pitch of the at-bat. Looked like he tried to cut that ball in there. And
he was set up to go back door right there.
Yeah, just didn't get it in there enough. And John Ryan Murphy with a double.
Breaking ball in for a strike to Stephen Drew. Getting a start at shortstop tonight. Didi Gregorius is out of the lineup tonight, so Drew is at short. And Gregorio Petit, who's on deck, is the second baseman. Drew, with good numbers against Nice in his career, waves at that off-speed pitch, and it's 0-2. Drew hitting just 176 so far. He has hit 4 home runs on the season. Hit just 162 last year in his time with the Red Sox and the Yankees. And he's gone on 3 pitches. Jim Wolf says, yeah, there was a strike. Drew thought it was low.
I don't care if you're hitters, umpire, or pitchers umpire, 2 strikes. Anything that close is protect. You got to try to fight it off. See Nice throw him a couple breaking balls, and look like that pitch caught quite a bit of home plate according to the K zone.
That's a good pitch.
It's a really good pitch. 2 strikes especially.
So 2 down, and now Petit. Outside, ball 1. 2 runs in the top of the first for the Mets, including a leadoff home run by Curtis Granderson, and a run back in the bottom of the first for the Yankees on a home run by Alex Rodriguez. There's a strike, 1-1.
You throw the ball 87 to 91 miles an hour in the big leagues. One of the things you have to do is you have to hit your spot or miss where you're going. He's missed a couple times, but for the most part tonight, Jonathan Nice has been in the area. He's trying to make his pitches.
Down the left field line, a fair ball, and this is going to tie the game. Murphy in to score on a double by Petit, and it's 2-2.
Location-wise, this did not look like it was. I thought he got it down. I wasn't sure if he was trying. Oh, he was trying to go down in the dirt. Yeah, he was trying to go down in the dirt and left it up.
That's still a pretty good piece of hit back.
Real good piece of hit.
I mean, to be able to elevate that ball high enough to get it over Campbell's head. Usually that's a ball you just bury into the ground and hit it right at someone.
Here's Gardner.
I'll tell you what it does do for young pitchers. It shows you your margin for error shrinks as your velocity goes down and expands as your velocity goes up.
Remember, Nice has given up 2 earned runs or fewer in 7 consecutive starts, 3 this year, 4 at the end of last year. He's already given up 2 here tonight. Curveball for a strike. Gardner, one of a number of Yankees who's growing a mustache these days, and is the stat on Nice. Gardner actually the ringleader of the mustache brigade for the New York Yankees, who still have a team rule that they can't have facial hair below the bottom lip, and maybe the mustache is paying off here for Gardner. He's giving the Yankees the lead, was thinking about 3 for a moment, but he'll settle for the Yankees' 3rd double of the inning, and they've got a 3-2 lead.
Let's look at the sequence of pitches right here. You see the breaking ball down way out of the strike zone, and then kind of a hanger. So if you're Brett Gardner, okay, he bounced one, he hung one. He can't throw me another one. Set on fastball. You still have a strike to work with. Set on fastball, get it and don't miss it. Brett Gardner didn't miss it. Puts the Yankees up right now 3-2.
Alex Rodriguez out into the on-deck circle right now. Hit his 659th home run in his first at bat. He's now 1 shy of tying Willie Mays for 4th on the all-time list. Chris Young trying to give him a chance to bat this inning. And it looks like he's going to a soft single into right. Gardner around third in to score as Young crosses up the defense and gives the Yankees a 4-2 lead. So now A-Rod. And as everybody in New York knows, and a lot of baseball fans around the country know, A-Rod's got a clause in his contract saying when he ties Mays, not to mention Ruth, Aaron, and Bonds, and then if he were to ever pass Bonds, he gets a $6 million bonus. Reportedly, the Yankees are saying they're not going to pay that because it's no longer a marketing opportunity. They were trying to make a big marketing situation out of it. Whether they will, whether A-Rod or the Players Association file a grievance, whether this thing gets messy or not, all that remains to be seen. But one way or the other, A-Rod is potentially a swing away from tying Willie Mays. 0-2 the count.
He threw him 2 fastballs right there to get ahead 0-2. One that Alex looked at, one he was a little late on and fouled back, and now you wonder if Nice is going to try to spin another breaking ball up there.
He's looking in there. Pretty good swing in that ball.
To left field, a base hit and more on a ball down into the corner. Young racing to third after getting held initially, then gets the wave. The run will score before A-Rod is tagged out at third, and the inning will come to a close with the Yankees scoring 4 times and taking a 5-2 lead. Initially, Young got held at third, and then when the relay throw got away, Young goes home, crosses the plate there. Tag applied there. The run counts 5-2 Yankees. pages of the tabloids here in New York. But so far this year, the Mets have led the way, both in the standings and in the newspapers. Matt Harvey and company with the best record in baseball, 14-4. After a win over the Yankees yesterday, this is the rubber match of this 3-game series, but it's the Yankees with a 5-2 lead right now in an eventful first 2 innings. A 4-run bottom of the second for the Yankees. They have 6 hits, 5 of them for extra bases, and a 5-2 lead going to the third. Top of the order for the Mets, beginning with Curtis Granderson, who on the 9th pitch that he saw from Nathan Eovaldi in the first, hit his first home run of the season.
Kurt, how important is this inning for Eovaldi after the Yankees gave him the lead with 4 runs in the bottom of the second to come out and say, okay, this game's over?
Well, against a lot of guys, I'd say very important. But if you're the Mets, are you really afraid of this guy locking in the strike zone, keeping the ball down consistently and shutting you out? I mean, I don't think so. He can, but that's not something he's done. And until he can start doing that consistently, it's hard to have a shutdown inning when you can't consistently throw your fastball to both sides of the plate.
2 balls and a strike. This is a guy who, when he was traded from the Dodgers to the Marlins, Hanley Ramirez went the other way. Then when he came from the Marlins to the Yankees, Prado and David Phelps, Martin Prado, David Phelps went to Miami, and Garrett Jones and Eovaldi came north to the Bronx. You saw that career record. It just doesn't match the stuff you see.
It's not even close. The stuff is number one stuff. And I've seen a lot of guys with stuff, and I'm sure you have too, Crucky. It's not about the stuff. At some point, mentally, you have to have a baseball IQ, and you have to be able to be taught. And that's the tough thing. Again, he's young. He's got a chance, and he's got an amazing arm. I'd like to see the front side a little bit softer, but I just want to see him command his fastball. Because if that happens, everything else, nothing else will matter.
Got it. If that slider actually up in the zone, but Granderson swings through it. 3rd consecutive strikeout for Eovaldi.
But I think, Crucky, correct me if I'm wrong, when you throw 98, you get strikeouts on pitch like that because you have to be aware of that 98. And maybe he was looking in, but that's what happens with velocity.
Yeah, most guys that throw an elevated slider like that, it gets hit hard somewhere. It might be an out, but it gets hit hard. But like Kurt said, when you throw 98, you got to get started earlier. And once you get started earlier, sometimes you commit, especially 3-2 count. Curtis Granderson's a very aggressive hitter, even though he's walking more this year, being more patient. But, sometimes you get happy. You hit a home run. You probably think, let me try to see if I can get 2.
I've heard you say things like, against a certain pitcher, you've got to look to the outside, give up the inside. You've got to pick a side of the plate. Against a guy whose command isn't as good, what are you thinking about up there?
You just look. Now you can look center. Because at some point he's going to have to throw it there because if he can't command the corners. I mean, look at that pitch. He wanted it.
That's a great example right there.
Murphy wanted it up and in, and he threw it up and away. Would have hit a left-handed hitter.
Joe Girardi encouraged by his last start against the Tigers. A 7-inning performance and a win for Eovaldi. Now he has struck out 4 in a row as he gets Lagares swinging.
Well, Lucas Duda has become such a different hitter this year. We talked to Terry Collins before the game. The adjustments he's made. 2014, look at his feet right there. Closed, his toes closed on his front foot. You can see his whole number in 2014, only part of it in 2015, and the hands are a little higher in 2015, but look how the foot lands. 2014, more toward the shortstop, locking himself up, and when you do that with your bottom half, your upper half pulls off, and that's what Lucas Duda did, especially against lefties. Now in 2015, that lower half is more toward the pitcher, but his hip stays in and his front shoulder stays in because he's starting a little more open with the toe. It closes everything up. And what that does, Dad, it lets the ball get deeper and you're not chasing balls. And that's the hardest thing to tell kids. It'll get there. You don't have to chase it. It'll get there.
And a call off the outside edge goes Eovaldi's way, and it's 0-2. due to using the whole field a lot more. The fences have come in again at Citi Field out in right center. Maybe not feeling he has to pull the ball as often to hit home runs. Coming off a good year and off to a good start this year. A little bit high, and you can see that that's actually where Murphy wanted that pitch on the 0-2.
Well, and here's the thing, that pitch down and away before that, if he can throw that pitch again, and there's nothing you can do with it if he can repeat his delivery.
But Terry Collins told us when he was doing stuff in the minor leagues for the Mets, he went and saw him play, or I guess he was in the big leagues. He went and saw him play, and he said he had 5 home runs to all different parts of the field. And he said then he gets to the big leagues, and all of a sudden someone, some genius told him, hey, you got to be a pull hitter, and it's not his game. Now, you saw the home run he hit yesterday against CC Sabathia, tough lefty, and he pulled it. He has that ability, but he also has the ability to hit the ball out of left field at any ballpark too.
Still a lot more to the pull side, but using the whole field a lot more this year than he did earlier in his career. Got a piece of the slider. Take a look at this swing, though, on the pitch from Sabathia yesterday.
He struggled so much against lefties last year, but you saw that. You saw the swing, Dan. You saw how deep he let that ball travel, and a lot of times, lefty, you want to try to get out so quick because you know that lefty has a natural tail. You want to try to get out so quick that you chase the ball instead of letting the ball come to you. He's now letting the pitch from lefties come to him.
And a liner into center, a base hit for Duda. And Eovaldi gives up another hit on a 2-strike count.
Well, and this is another difference with Lucas Duda. I mean, he was, last year even with 2 strikes, I'm not giving in. And now you look at this approach, the high leg kick still, but look how he lands more facing Eovaldi instead of locking himself up, and his lower half stays in and goes down and gets that pitch down and away. Last year that was a rollover grounder to second base. This year it's a line drive up the middle. That's the difference, and the great thing about Lucas Duda in 2015.
A 2-out base hit, and now here's the cleanup hitter for the Mets, Michael Cuddyer. Terry Collins just raving about Cuddyer before the game. You know what? You're getting a professional hitter. You're getting a guy who won a batting title a couple of years ago, but he talks about things like breaking up double plays, running out ground balls hard.
I coached against Michael Cuddyer when he was in Double-A in the Twins organization, and he played in Double-A exactly the way he plays right now.
Let's go down to Buster.
Guys, I asked Cuddyer about that, about his approach, and he said part of it was probably playing with the Minnesota Twins, who take that approach and have for a long time since Tom Kelly was their manager. And he talked about how when he was a kid, his 2 favorite players were Cal Ripken and Don Mattingly. And what he liked about those 2 guys was they played the game right and they played with a fire.
And so many young, talented players on the Mets team. That kind of thing from a David Wright, from a Michael Cuddyer, really important. And Crucky can rub off on those.
Without question. And Michael Cuddyer doesn't have to be loud and tell people how to play. Just watch you. Watch me play. I'm not going to ask you to watch me, but you got to. And the interesting thing is in spring training, near the end of spring training, apparently the whole roster traveled to road games, whether they were playing or not, to sit in the dugout, build some camaraderie. And that was a David Wright idea. But, when your veteran player like Cuddyer buys into it and it's part of his makeup, then how can the young players not?
It's hard to express how unheard of that is, though. That's impressive. And for me, my first call up in the big leagues, I saw a guy lead and never really open his mouth. Cal Ripken played the game one way, and no one else was allowed to play any differently. And I always enjoyed. Jason Varitek was the same way.
You'll have, whatever the sport is, coaches, managers tell you when your best players are your hardest workers or have the best work ethic, boy, does that make the manager or coach's job so much easier, because it rubs off so much on the young players.
When I came up, I had Tony Gwynn that didn't say a lot, but he was a guy that he never jogged to first base. He always ran hard. He broke up double plays. And when you're guys that winning 900 batting titles is playing it that way, you better too.
And the fact that he can swing the bat a little bit as well doesn't hurt. Duda had a running start. Duda's around third. Duda heading home and will score in a slide. Cuddyer now heading to third after the throw gets away. And the Mets are back within 2 at 5-3.
Well, again, I can't say enough about this kid's stuff. I love his stuff, but you can't be in the middle of the plate. You can be in the middle of the plate if you can command the ball to both sides, because the hitters aren't looking there. Michael Cuddyer is so strong. You know, he one hands that ball back in the corner. But again, I keep going back to this. I don't think at this point in his career, after what he's been through, that Nathan Eovaldi should be here. He should be farther along, I think, mechanically and pitching. But he's still young. He's still got a shot. It's just hard to see this kind of. This doesn't equate to me, that stuff with these results.
Double and an RBI for Cuddyer. He takes third on the air on the shortstop. Drew, and now this ball's lined up the alley by Murphy all the way to the fence in left center. Cuddyer scores on the double by Murphy, and it's 5-4.
Buster said he moved closer to home plate because it felt like he was getting beat on the outside pitch. Apparently it worked. And it might not even be something mechanical. It might just be something that it's in his head now. Oh, I can cover that pitch. But this is Daniel Murphy at his finest, and not going to hit a ton of home runs. But boy, when he hits it and squares it up, it's a beautiful thing. And he's got 2 base hits now, a single and a double, or 2 doubles that both of them have been hit right on the screws. One pulled, one to left center. That tells you that he's feeling pretty good about himself.
There have been 12 hits in this game, 6 for each team. 9 of those 12 hits are for extra bases. And in the top of the 3rd inning, it's a 5-4 game.
You had that coming in, didn't you?
And how about Eovaldi? He sets down 6 in a row, including 4 consecutive strikeouts, and then single, double, double since. Eric Campbell takes a slider for a strike.
Well, that's the tease. The tease is he strikes out 4 consecutive guys on filthy pitches. And when he misses, he's missing too much play.
Campbell grounded out his first time up. David Wright is on the DL with a strained hamstring, as we mentioned, eligible to come off as early as next weekend. The Mets aren't quite so sure he'll be ready quite that early, but Terry Collins says I wouldn't put anything past him. Campbell, a guy who was the last cut in the spring by the Mets when they decided to go with an 8th reliever, a 13th pitcher. But obviously hoping to stick around even after Wright comes back. One. There for a strike, 1-2.
And listening to Terry talk today, if you're a Mets fan, you got to be fired up. The injuries they've had, while they're not good, have given them a chance to look at some other guys. And you don't leave spring training with a 10-man pitching staff. You have to have 15, 16, 17 pitchers. And the guys that they brought up have been phenomenal for them.
And a chopper back towards the mound. Eovaldi with time, and he'll make the play to end the inning. But the Mets get a couple of 2-out runs and go on to the bottom of the 3rd. Yankees 5, Mets 4. Mark Teixeira leads off the inning and hits a screamer right back at Nice, who makes the play for the first out.
I think the play made him.
We can laugh about it now.
That's a scary thing. These balls come off the bat quick.
And that right there is exactly why you want to finish up in a position to field your position.
Why didn't he stare at him? Making gestures toward him. Isn't that the proper way to do things now?
You're getting into the Royals situation?
I don't want to get into it.
Well, you did bring it up.
Well, it's old.
The brawl between the Royals and the White Sox this week that began, or appeared to begin, at some point after Adam Eaton hit a comeback back to Yordan Ventura, and words were exchanged, stares were exchanged, and eventually a brawl erupted and 6 players were suspended, including Ventura, for 7 games.
But Ventura gave up a line drive up the middle to Mike Trout, and he stared at Trout the whole way down the line. So this is not like a, oh, this is the first time it's ever happened. Let's forgive him and he can turn this around. You need him to turn it around, or else he's going to keep missing games.
One of the things I heard was before that play there was chirping going on back and forth across the field in the dugouts. So they were kind of getting on each other a little bit. But if you watched it, I thought Ventura was reacting to something Eaton said, because it didn't look like he just out and out said what he said. But the only problem I have as a pitcher there, if you're protecting your teammate, that's fine. That's what you're supposed to do. And you want to dress with 24 guys who know you have their back. But if you're doing something on a personal level and you get one of your teammates hurt because of it, that's where it becomes a problem.
Swing and a miss to get Beltran, 2 down. Well, if you haven't seen it, let's show you some of the video from the situation back on Thursday. Comebacker off the bat of Eaton, and something's going on already. You can pretty much read lips and see what Ventura said, and now, I mean, it is on. This one got serious in a hurry. Second time that Ventura's been involved in a situation already this year. The other one was with Oakland. Chris Sale admitted later, or it came out later, he went to the Royals dugout during the game in the 8th inning. Tried to get in. Fortunately, that never happened. He wound up getting suspended as well. Inning over, 5-4 Yankees. We are back, top of the fourth inning. Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN, presented by Taco Bell. And a lively one so far. The Yankees and the Mets in the rubber match of a 3-game Subway Series. As you can see, split allegiances even within one person sometimes, or maybe just celebrating the series as a whole. The Yankees are up 5-4 tonight, including an Alex Rodriguez home run back in the first inning. So Nathan Eovaldi, who's given up 6 hits, 5 of them for extra bases, is still pitching with the lead here in the fourth inning. Facing Wilmer Flores, who flied out to right his first time up. Jammed him in a soft liner to second, 1 down. The Nationals, led by Bryce Harper, head south to take on Freddie Freeman and the Atlanta Braves. Monday Night Baseball tomorrow night at 7 Eastern on ESPN. And watch ESPN. What in the world is going on with the Nationals right now? Harper hit another home run today, but Washington lost again. They've lost 5 in a row. The Marlins just swept them. And the Nationals, the best team, quote, on paper, entering the season, are now 7-12 on the year, and they're 7.5 games behind the Mets in the National League East.
And we kind of knew with Anthony Rendon out, Jason Worth started the season on the disabled list. Offense could be a little bit of an issue. Ian Desmond struggled defensively, but their starting pitching hasn't been great. And we thought, wow, this is the best rotation some of us have ever seen, in our lifetimes. And now all of a sudden, maybe not.
Here's the 1-1 to Muno.
I don't know about you, but people talk about the unwritten rule book. I want to take that with the best team one. The paper that you write the bet, rip that one up.
It doesn't mean a thing.
No. I think what the baseball season proves to teams that get to the end is you have to have a legitimate 40-man roster with about 35 big league players on it if you want to compete, because it's such a grind. And now with pitching, kids are coming up so much younger with far fewer minor league innings, and a 200-inning season is, that's an award winner.
And with how quickly guys get put on the disabled list, it's
there's so much money now. With these kids.
Swung and a slider in the dirt, and Muno strikes out for the second time tonight. Time now to take a look at our value player, brought to you by True Value. Rookie catcher Kevin Plawecki just called up this week. Hit his first major league home run yesterday. Hit it off CC Sabathia. Had a 3 RBI afternoon, helping to lead the Mets to victory. Getting a chance to play because Travis d'Arnaud, with whom we'll speak next half inning, live for the Mets dugout. D'Arnaud's on the DL right now with a broken finger. Plawecki, who the Mets are very high on, coming up and getting a chance to learn from d'Arnaud. And also there's the d'Arnaud with a broken finger, getting a chance to play pretty much on a regular basis.
Yeah, and you know what I liked about the home run? The fact that when he got to the dugout, they didn't give him the silent treatment, his first big league home. I mean, that just shows you that the Mets are all in this together. We're not going to single someone out for being a rookie. I mean, everyone on this team now is a veteran. And I love that. I was never into that rookie hazing, making rookies do things.
Well, I think Dave Hollins was.
Wow. That's another subject.
More Philly stories that can't be told on the air.
You know what? I honestly don't care what he hits. His job, catching his pitching staff, how he adjusts and adapts, how quickly he learns is the big thing for me. Because then when Travis comes back, now you've got that really good problem of having 2 very good guys back there.
Who all pitchers like to throw to.
Yep.
Eovaldi in time to get Plawecki and end the inning. We'll speak with the injured d'Arnaud live for the Mets dugout when we come back to the Bronx. 5-4 lead for the Yankees over the Mets, bottom of the fourth. The Mets come in with the best record in baseball in spite of a number of injuries. As we mentioned, David Wright's on the DL with a strained hamstring. Travis d'Arnaud with a broken finger after being hit by a pitch. Zach Wheeler, Josh Edge, and Tommy John gone for the season. Henry Mejia, who was to have been the closer for the Mets, suspended for 80 games for a PED. Vic Black, and Bobby Parnell, both with recent setbacks. Jerry Blevins, hit by a line drive, suffered a broken forearm. He'll be out several weeks, yet the Mets are still playing some great baseball. John Ryan Murphy leads off the inning for the Yankees, and as mentioned last half inning, pleased to be joined from the Mets dugout by Travis d'Arnaud, who's biding his time on the DL right now. Travis, thanks for joining us. And first of all, we saw the splint on your hand. How you feeling right now?
I feel great. Get to show up to the ballpark every day and watch baseball.
Travis, how much have you tried to help Plawecki just getting to know these pitchers that you have worked with over the years?
As much as I can, and he's actually a really good kid, and he comes to me actually and asks a lot of questions about these guys, so he knows how to handle the pitching staff real well.
You've had a chance to catch Matt Harvey. Obviously didn't do so yesterday, but what's it like from a catcher's perspective, putting down fingers for that guy?
It's a lot of fun. He's got 4+ pitches, and he always feels like he's going to go out there and win every single game. You know, every one of us wake up every day thinking we're going to win that day, so it's fun showing up to the ballpark the day he pitches.
You hear a lot about his competitiveness, you know, the bulldog nature that he has. How does that affect you as a catcher when you try to go through a game plan with him?
I just try to share the energy out there with him, and so does the rest of the guys out on the field. He's our best pitcher, and every day he goes out there, like I said, we feel like we can win.
Now, you're winning a lot of ball games. We know that, Travis, but how difficult is it to have to sit knowing you can't do anything about it because of the injury?
You know, it's not difficult with these great group of guys we got. Hold on one sec. Go ahead, Phil. It's not difficult with these great group of guys we got, and all of them want to win, so it's a lot of fun.
When you guys reported for spring training, you know, there was a lot of confidence. Terry Collins was speaking about this is going to be a different year. Expectations are high. What did you think? What do you think kind of the ceiling is for this team this year?
Well, what's most important is we all believe. We believe we can win, and we all want to win. And all of us have our eyes on the playoffs, and we all want to play in October and into November.
A leadoff man aboard, John Ryan Murphy at first. I believe that was scored. An infield hit for Murphy. Stephen Drew is the batter right now. Out to short, on to second one, on to first, double play. A 6-4-3 double play. You got to protect that right hand, huh?
Yeah,
that's how you got to clap
right there.
Yeah. Tell us about some of the defense you've seen from your teammates this year.
They've been great, you know, and you got to give credit to our pitching, keeping all the defense on their toes and always ready, going out there and attacking hitters. And I've seen some outstanding plays already this year, and I'm sure I'm going to see a lot more the rest of this year.
Travis, the big question coming at beautiful
slow-mo replay of clapping,
doing the elbow clap, but the big question with the Mets coming into spring training, not only the health but the shortstop position, and Wilmer Flores has stepped in and said, "This is mine."
Oh, we've all believed in him. He's such a great competitor, and he's a really hard worker. He studies really hard where he needs to be positioned, and he works really hard every single day.
Gregorio Petit is the batter, a 5-4 lead for the Yankees here in the bottom of the fourth inning. Travis, get healthy soon. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Travis d'Arnaud live from the Mets dugout. We'll get a chance to hear from Joe Girardi coming out of the next break.
You got to love it. He's right in the middle of talk. Hold on. And he has to watch the plays. I mean, that just tells you, guy's on a DL and he's into the game. Most guys on the DL, I know when I was up in the clubhouse.
You wouldn't be available for an interview?
No.
Yanked towards left field and caught by Cuddyer. And the inning is over. Still listening, still clapping, doing what he can even while on the DL. Into 5-4 Yankees. Yankees leading 5-4. Nathan Eovaldi begins the inning having thrown 76 pitches through the first 4 innings. He faces Curtis Granderson. Granderson homered in the first, struck out in the third. To the outside edge at 95, 1-1. There is activity in the Yankee pen as this game moves into the 5th inning. Is it true, Shill, the hardest innings for a starting pitcher of the 1st inning and the 5th inning?
Well, it depends what kind of pitcher you're talking about. A guy that has command and that has a game plan and goes out to execute. It's getting into the game plan in that 1st inning. For a kid like this, it's tough. He's just trying to survive inning to inning, and that's what makes it hard.
2-2 the count on Granderson. Shift on for Granderson.
See, the problem with the shift in this situation is you got to have a pitcher who can hit the spots you need to hit to make him hit the ball where your defenders are.
Or strike him out.
Right.
Number 6 for Eovaldi. Here's your lineup of Major League action this week on ESPN. Tomorrow night, Monday Night Baseball presented by USAA. The struggling Nationals head down to Atlanta to take on the Braves. Wednesday night, it'll be the Phillies and the Cardinals, who have gotten some tough news concerning Adam Wainwright in the last 24 hours or so. And then a week from tonight, we'll be at Fenway as the Red Sox host the Yankees. Adam Wainwright placed on the disabled list by the St. Louis Cardinals with an ankle/Achilles injury. As Juan Lagares steps in and takes outside of ball 1. And a lot of concern, guys, that this could be a serious injury for one of the game's best pitchers.
Yeah, good. You know, all the reports you're hearing that it's a torn Achilles. They have to get MRI, of course, Monday when they get back to St. Louis. But if it is, it's, you know, a devastating. If he's out for the season, it's going to be a devastating loss for the Cardinals. And, you know, you wonder if it is a season-ending injury, will they go out and get someone?
No, I mean, yeah, that conversation goes to Cole Hamels at that point. But everything he said, if you listen to him talk about what it felt like, is what I remember happening to Gabe Kapler in Toronto. Just the sound, the feel.
And just a freak play. He's batting.
Yeah.
Pops the ball up, and it's just coming out of the box.
Well, if you look at the way he's coming out of the box, when he comes out of the box, he kind of like leans. He almost like he slips, puts all that pressure on that.
He looks behind him, and he was quoted later as saying he thought maybe it was the catcher's mask or a glove or something that hit him in the back of the left ankle, but nothing hit him in the back of the ankle. Something just may have popped in there.
Yeah,
so
when your Achilles snaps completely, that top half goes up into your hamstring. And I mean, I can't imagine.
I mean, it was similar to the Ryan Howard when he tore his Achilles in the playoff game. Adam Wainwright was pitching to Ryan Howard. You know, just a step and gone. And it's.
There's a chopper toward third. Barehanded by Headley. Short hop gets past to Shera. Lagares on his way to second. It'll be a base hit and then an error on Headley, allowing Lagares to take second.
Chase Headley makes a heck of a play on this ball initially with the bare hand. And, you know, that's the peril with the bare hand, is when you come in and you have to get rid of it that quick. You can't get across the seams and with the four-seamer, and he bounces it. Teixeira can't come up with it. Lagares, perfect. Turn your head to the right to see where the ball is. Even though John Ryan Murphy was down there to back up, Lagares easily into second.
And Eovaldi will not have a chance to get through the inning, will not have a chance to qualify for the win. Left-hander Chasen Shreve coming in to face Lucas Duda when we come back. What'd you see overall from Evaldi?
Well, the two sides of him, and when you look at the misses, they're such big misses. They're non-competitive, and then he misses in the strike zone. Then he misses there. You can't. I don't care how hard you throw. If you don't have command of your fastball, that's the place you can't miss. And this is the tantalizing part. His stuff is so electric. He gets really bad swings and misses, but he can't do it consistently, and that's his challenge.
That was our pitching summary, brought to you by John Deere. Evaldi out, rookie left-hander Chasen Shreve in his second stint with the Yankees this year. He pitched 3 1/3 in that 19-inning loss to the Red Sox a couple of weeks back, and then because he's got options and they needed some fresh arms, he got sent down for 10 days, has been called back up, and as you can see from the numbers in limited appearances, he has done a nice job. Tying run out at second with 1 out in the 5th. Lefty against lefty. Lucas Duda the batter. And on the first pitch, he gets hit. 81-mile-an-hour slider that didn't have a whole lot of break to it.
Well, might have had the reverse break. Sometimes that slider will back up on you. Looked like it backed up right into Lucas Duda's broad back. Yeah, it's just a slider that got away. You don't mind those. 81. Is that what you said it was?
81.
Yeah, you don't mind those. It hurts, but
doesn't hurt like 98.
No, not real close. No.
So now he's got to face Michael Cuddyer, a right-handed batter and a good right-handed batter. 1 for 2 tonight. Had an RBI double his last time up. Signed a 2-year, $21 million deal in the offseason to become a Met. And a chance to do some damage right here.
Such a big part of being a reliever in the big leagues is how you fare against the first guy you face out of the bullpen. Teams will keep those stats, getting ahead and getting them out. That he was brought in to get that lefty, because now you could put Cuddyer on if you felt like pitching around him. But hitting him obviously forces him in to try to get this guy out.
Sharply hit, but right at Petit, on to Drew, on to Teixeira, and the Yankees get a very big 4-6-3 inning-ending double play. First inning, with his 5th home run of the season and the 659th home run of his career. One shy of Willie Mays for 4th on baseball's all-time list. A-Rod will bat 3rd here this inning. Brett Gardner, Chris Young before him. Gardner has grounded out and had an RBI double. Yankees up 5-4 as they come to bat here in the bottom of the 5th. Rubber match of the 3-game Subway Series. The other series between these two is at Citi Field, and that's in September.
That could be huge.
Hope it is.
I do too.
Mets haven't been to the postseason since 2006. Imagine if they're in it in September. We all know a bunch of guys who are big Met fans, and I mean big Met fans, and they, you know, at times obviously they have been a bit of a tortured bunch. I mean, they've had some high points as well, but boy, are they excited about this 14-4 start.
If Joe Girardi finds a way to keep this team in contention in September, I thought he's done a phenomenal job the last couple of years given everything that's happened. But there's so many ifs with this team this year. If they break right, this is absolutely a team that can be in contention.
Jonathan Nieses 2-2 to Brett Gardner, fouled off to the left. As mentioned, Alex Rodriguez will bat this inning, and the whole 660 and beyond thing obviously generates a lot of different kind of feelings amongst baseball fans given A-Rod's history. The RBI totals are also right up there with some of the biggest numbers in baseball history. The Yankees used to have a section in their notes promoting milestones. That's just gone right now. At first A-Rod's numbers came out, then all the milestones just went away. Chopper up the middle, going to be tough with Gardner's speed, and he is out at first as Flores throws him out. And Gardner's not arguing or not saying let's check, but Joe Girardi saying everybody just sit tight for a second and we'll decide if we want to review this.
Well, first base coach Tony Pena was right on it, pointing into the dugout like, you know, we need to check this one.
He's safe.
Yep.
Yeah, by a lot.
Everybody's still looking in there, waiting for the Yankees to decide. Here comes Girardi, and we'll have a replay review. Tony Pena likes it.
Well,
this one shouldn't take too long.
well, you wouldn't think, but
we've seen some 4 and 5 minute
strange things yet in this.
Rockies getting mad.
Well,
so one of the rules about replay is you have to show it in the ballpark. That cheer you just heard was everybody seeing it, and this one didn't take long, so they'll overturn it.
now they got to go find Brett Gardner. There he comes.
Base hit for Gardner.
I tell you what, I watched Tony Pena. As soon as the out call was made, and Tony was looking right into Joe Girardi, you know, pointing his finger like you had to challenge this one.
So Gardner with a good speed aboard to lead off the inning. Young shows bunt, and he bunts right through it. Rodriguez, who has homered and doubled tonight, awaiting on deck. Young 1 for 2, had an RBI double his last time up, and sent it down to Buster Olney.
Guys, you were talking about the clause or the marketing issue that Alex Rodriguez has with the Yankees. Well, the Yankees, according to sources, are definitely going to challenge this. They are not going to pay him, and they expect that because of the language and the structure of the contract that they will be able to win this. But, of course, Alex will be represented by the union. This will likely go to a grievance and likely will be decided during the offseason.
Isn't this the kind of thing, guys, that you think could get ugly?
It will.
Yeah.
There's no way it doesn't get ugly in New York. And I'm trying to figure out how this is not going to happen after the season. This could happen starting tomorrow. And that, to me, it almost feels like, in a sense, the Josh Hamilton thing. Like the team couldn't be going out of its way more to make a point to the detriment of on-field performance.
So you're siding with player and players association.
I don't know how to side. I don't know what the language in the contract is, but there's no possible way that home run can happen and then they can say we're not going to pay him and something positive can come out of that, especially in this media market.
Right. If the reports are true, what the Yankees are saying, Buster, correct me if I'm wrong, is that this is no longer a marketing opportunity for the Yankees because of the steroid history of Alex Rodriguez.
That's the perspective of the Yankees, because his marketing or marketability has essentially been squandered by what's happened during the course of his career.
Wouldn't you think there's somebody in the room or on one side or the other who says, you know what, why doesn't everybody shake hands? We'll give the $6 million to charity and we'll. I mean, this could get really ugly.
Well, it's not going to be.
And the thing is, it's already been rocky the last couple years between the Yankees and Alex Rodriguez with the threat of lawsuits and everything else. And you know, look, if he needs the $6 million, we don't know what the deal is with him financially. I don't want to get into it, but if he needs it, then you fight for it. But if you don't, why go through the trouble with your organization, who you're going to be here for another, 3 or 4 years?
Off Murphy into left center field. Gardner around to third. Yankees on the corners with nobody out.
I would say this. I'm not going to spend anybody else's money. But if Alex Rodriguez, I think, could stand up and said, you know what, after everything that's happened, let's just put this away, and walked away from that.
So here's A-Rod after a base hit and then an error charge to Murphy. Fielder's choice, E4 technically. Dan Warthen, the pitching coach for the Mets, is out to the mound to talk to John Neese. There is activity in the Mets pen. Right-hander Eric Goodell is up for the Mets as A-Rod waits.
I think this is a, pick your poison for Terry Collins. You got Jonathan Neese pitching to Alex Rodriguez with first and third, but Mark Teixeira, much better hitter left-handed than right-handed. So he might try to hope that Neese can get Alex Rodriguez out, make Teixeira hit right-handed.
Big numbers in his career and tonight against Neese as he takes a strike.
Second at bat in a row, he's taking that first pitch fastball middle.
What do you think he's looking for?
Pitch he hit out in the first.
Swings through a high fastball, 0-2.
Getting back to the milestone home runs and all that, there's not even a buzz in the stadium when he comes up, like people standing in anticipation.
Ground ball to short, and a high throw sails into the stands. The Mets just committed their fourth error of the game, and a run will score to make it 6-4 Yankees.
I mean, this is about the easiest double play you can turn if you're Flores, but you see it right there. Like a pitcher, he got underneath it and the ball just sailed on him over Duda's head.
Scored fielder's choice RBI for A-Rod, E6 on Flores to allow A-Rod to go to second. You can't assume a double play, but that had to have been turned by the Mets. A-Rod will get a gift RBI out of it because of the air.
You can't assume it in Little League and Cal Ripken League and maybe high school, and maybe some college, but that's a double play. It should have been. So you should be able to assume that one.
6 errors in the game, 4 by the Mets, 2 by the Yankees.
I mean, you look at the play. When you don't have to make a feed to your double play partner, it should be a double play. And you see Flores, you can see how his elbow just got in underneath it, and the ball just takes off.
Go count on Teixeira.
You throw it over Lucas Duda's head. He's a tall man. I mean, you've casted one.
Ball 4. Frustration for Nice. Buddy Carlisle was up in the Mets pen along with Eric Goodell moments ago.
Well, here's what you would like about the Yankees lineup if Beltran was hitting. You have a switch hitter in Teixeira hitting 4th, a switch hitter in Beltran hitting 5th, a switch hitter in Headley hitting 6th. Yeah, you're making it so difficult for Terry Collins right now. He's basically making John Nice stay out there to try to get out of this thing.
Beltran hits one sharply to short, to second one on to first, and there's the double play the Mets were looking for. Inning over, a run in, end of 5, 6-4 Yankees. /franchise4 to cast your ballots. Winners will be revealed during the All-Star game on the 14th of July. The Mets have some great candidates, including some Hall of Famers. Let's send it down to Buster Olney and Tim Kirchin to duke it out.
Okay, Tim, you picked the wrong guys. It seems like every week. Who are your 4 Mets?
All right. I'm going to take Tom Seaver, number 1. He's one of the 7 greatest pitchers of all time. Dwight Gooden is number 2. 72 games over 500 with the Mets, and the 84-85 season were absolutely spectacular. Number 3 is Mike Piazza. I think he's the greatest hitter in the history of the Mets, even though he spent only 8 years there. The 9/11 homer will never be forgotten. And David Wright is number 4 just because he holds a whole bunch of club records for hitting.
I'm so incredibly disappointed with you because we agree on all 4.
Oh, we got it right. Good.
You have to put David Wright on there because he leads in all the categories that the Mets have. And I agree with you about Gooden. He was my number 4. I kind of wondered, but you know what? He was so dominant. He was the Matt Harvey of the 1980s.
It was really hard, though, because we left Strawberry off, we left Keith Hernandez off, Gary Carter off, and your guy, Jerry Koosman, who you were going to put on.
No, I didn't put him on in the end. Dan, back to you.
All right, guys. Great stuff. I like it more when they disagree and they start ripping each other down.
When they call each other idiots, it gets fun.
I I don't like when they like each other.
No, you're not into that.
Here's Daniel Murphy, 2 for 2, 2 doubles, 2 RBIs. Also has committed an error in this game.
Who hasn't?
Mets.
You and I.
Yeah.
Well, not that anybody can see.
Not that shows on the score.
I did have a bout with the ice cream a little earlier.
And you lost?
Well,
It won again.
I bobbled it.
Is that your 4 for the Mets, Dan?
The strawberry one is interesting because the name is so big. It just jumps out at you. But when you hear the guys talk about David Wright holding a bunch of club records, I mean, they make a pretty good case for it.
I'm with Keith Hernandez or Gary Carter in that 4 slot. David Wright's going to end up there, obviously, but Seaver you can't deny.
No,
I don't think you can deny Gooden or Piazza. But the 4, Gary Carter, maybe more an Expo than the Met, but Keith Hernandez.
You know, for young baseball fans who know the name Dwight Gooden but really don't know how good he was, you got to YouTube Dwight Gooden. I mean, he was the young Dwight Gooden was absolutely unbelievable.
Yes, he
was. You must have faced the young Dwight Gooden. Yeah, how'd that go?
Well, when you're one of the best pitchers and he strikes you out, you don't feel so bad.
Yeah,
not a lot of contact.
I got a few hits though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I took him deep once.
Did you?
Opening day, I think. 1 year, opening day.
All right, fellas, get to work down there. Little research, please.
I'd like to say it was a bomb, but probably just crawled over the back of the fence. But
still a homer.
You're darn right.
Murphy draws the walk.
I thought he was going to be 300-game winner.
Pitching change here in the Bronx. Shreve is out. And Chris Martin will be making his way in for the Yankees. And Cuervo have a story. Drink responsibly. Follow your favorite team and players all season with MLB.com at Bat, the #1 app for live baseball. At Bat is up to the moment at any moment with in-game highlights, live look-ins, replay reviews, radio broadcasts, StatCast, and more. Get MLB.com at Bat now. By the way, John Kruk in his career against Doc Gooden. A .264 hitter, 14 for 53, 3 home runs. Crucky,
at least I got one right.
That is pretty impressive. Show, don't you think? That's big
very,
time stuff.
very impressive because you faced him when he was young and just ridiculous.
But I was a rare left-handed hitter, could hit the high fastball, and I probably got a couple of them from him, I would imagine.
How many punch-outs?
We didn't go there.
Yeah, let's not get to that one.
12.
Really?
Well, 53 at bats.
7 hits, 12 strikeouts.
No, 14 hits.
Oh, 14.
That's impressive.
Eric Campbell, the batter. Chris Martin, the pitcher for the Yankees. Martin, 6'8", 225, 28 years of age, out of Arlington, Texas. Went to McLennan Community College and eventually wound up out of baseball for 4 or 5 years. Worked for a package shipping company and in multiple appliance stores before he got back into professional baseball in an independent league, Grand Prairie of the Independent American Association. And has worked his way back all the way up to the big leagues. First with Colorado last year, and then with the Yankees this season after being acquired in the offseason in exchange for cash considerations. How does a 6'8" guy who throws in the 90s?
Well, he said that he hurt his shoulder and lifting the packages and whatever built the strength up, and he decided to go throw, and he was throwing in the low to mid 90s, so he thought, let's give this a shot. Now here he is.
Playing in Yankee Stadium.
Yeah.
That's cool. Wonder if chicken farming will strengthen your arms and shoulders.
You got a comeback in you?
No. God, no. Just want to wake up and not be in pain.
Yeah, good luck.
We're glad to see you out of the sling, my friend, by the way.
I like it. Now I can poke you.
Well, yeah, like that stopped you before, my child.
1-2. And breaking ball, chopped weakly towards short. Out of the glove to second. They will get the out.
I think they're going to look at this.
Yep. Did Petit have to come off the bag to take the flip from Drew? Murphy's still hanging around out at second base.
I saw Terry Collins point right at Murphy and say, "Stay right there." That's a gutsy play right there by Drew. And, you know, with the.
Did he drag?
Well,
the right
I think he
foot?
tagged him.
He tagged
him.
Yep.
Yeah, he was off the base, but he tagged him. That's a pretty good play by Petit. Just even, you know, be conscious of that, saying, okay, I might not have been on the base. Let me tag him to make sure and get one. But yeah, that's a gutsy play by Drew with a 2-run lead. You know, the last thing you want is to make a foolish error like that and possibly give the Mets a big inning.
So fielder's choice is the end result. And Wilmer Flores lifts a fly ball into right field. Beltran.
Unbelievable.
And a double play as Campbell lost track of the number of outs. Boy, a major mental mistake by Eric Campbell ends the inning. He's in 2-out mode right away. And the base running blunder will end the inning for the Mets. ESPN. And happy birthday to one of the good guys in the business. That's Mike Chason, a cameraman, one of the longtime cameramen on this crew. Goes back many, many years. They gave him a happy birthday, 70 years young, as they showed on the Jumbotron on the scoreboard here at Yankee Stadium. Chase, thumbs up. Are you an original? You go way back to year one. He's an original. From 1990 right through to today. One of the great camera people that we have on this crew. Happy birthday, Chase.
Happy birthday.
I hope to see 70 someday.
Yeah. What do you think?
They're putting you back together bit by bit. The shoulder now.
The knee in November.
The knee in November.
The lobotomy sooner than that, probably.
Second one, you mean?
Yeah. First one didn't hold.
Chase Headley leads off the bottom of the sixth for the Yankees, and Eric Goodell is on the mound for the New York Mets. Former closer at UCLA, was converted to a starter at times in the minors. The velocity went down. Now up in the big leagues, he's back in the bullpen. And as they say in the business shill, the velocity plays up when he goes back to the bullpen. He's throwing harder now.
It does. I rarely see that you go that. You usually don't take relievers, turn them into starters, or vice. You usually take starters and make it, especially college guys that are big enough. And I think he's got the size, but they have so much pitching that this is one of those good things. And when you listen to Terry talk today, he was clearly excited about the fact that a lot of guys he didn't know about are coming through for him.
Well, because of all of the injuries they've had to guys who they thought would be in their bullpen this year, and the suspension of Henry Mejia, they've had to turn to a lot of guys out of their system. And although the names may not jump out at you, whether it's a journeyman or a young pitcher who's getting a chance, Terry Collins likes the production so far. By and large, they are getting the job done. Lined into right field, a base hit and more for Headley. And the extra base hit parade continues tonight. That's a leadoff double. Now you've been to the top, collected every honor. Now you have to prove yourself all over again. See where your next chapter will be written. Now we draft. The NFL Draft, presented by Bose, Thursday at 8 Eastern on ESPN. John Ryan Murphy is the batteries 2 for 2, a double and a single. The Yankees up 6-4, out hitting the Mets 9-7. The Mets have committed 4 errors. The Yankees have committed 2. The rubber match of a 3-game series. The Yankees will stay at home and host Tampa Bay for the next 3 days. And in fact, for the Yankees, the next 17 games they play will be against teams within their own division in what appears to be a wide open American League East. Yankees come in at 10-8. The leaders right now in the AL East are the Tampa Bay Rays. They are 11-8. The Yankees with an off day Thursday. Their only off day in the span of a month. And again, 17 straight against division rivals beginning tomorrow. Rays are 11-8. Yankees are 10-8. Red Sox are 10-9. Blue Jays and Orioles are both 9-10. Is that what we're going to see all season long? You think we're going to have a bunch of 83 to 86 win teams in this division?
I think it's going to come back to health again. I think when my yardstick is coming out of spring training, I always say the team that gets the most starts from its 5 starters it leaves camp with is going to win this division, and I think that holds very true this year.
Buster, your thoughts on the division?
Yeah, and guys, watch Tampa Bay. They just got Drew Smyly back on Friday. They're thinking Alex Cobb could be back sometime in late May. And then in mid-June, how about Matt Moore? They would have, with Chris Archer, Jake Odorizzi, the best rotation in the division.
Can they hit?
Chris Archer got the win today. They swept Toronto. He's legit.
He's a great kid, too. But can they hit enough?
Yep. Bouncer left side. Campbell looks the runner back and throws out Murphy for out number 1. Let's take a look And some of our Sunday storylines, our producer Tom Archer making sure to include Chris Archer, no relation, on the Rays sweep of the Blue Jays. We mentioned earlier the Nationals swept. They're 7-12 right now. The Marlins beat them, and Yasiel Puig is on the disabled list right now with a bad hamstring. Brandon McCarthy, leaving the game last night with some discomfort in his elbow. So the Dodgers are battling some injuries right now.
Who would have thought we'd be talking about the Dodgers and their starting pitching? And just when you thought they had too many outfielders, and we can trade Matt Kemp, and now one of them goes on the disabled list, and thank goodness they kept Andre Ethier, because they're going to need him.
Boy, that top point, what jumps out at me with the Nationals right now is they're 8 games behind the Mets. Okay, which is over the course of a season is one thing, but when you have Matt Harvey and you have a DeGrom, when you have those guys stop 5-game losing streaks for the most part, and I think Matt's embraced that role, so you can break those losing streaks up and not end up having an 11-gamer because you get him 2 times in 9 days or 5 days. That's a big thing for me, because yesterday he wins after a loss, and number ones understand to stop streaks.
And sometimes the term number one or ace is thrown around a little bit loosely. I know you don't do that as a number one and ace yourself, but when you look at this guy, how special do you think he can be?
Well, I've said it. There's 2 things I've said. If I could be a pitching coach in the big leagues and I could pick up the job, it would be the New York job because of him and the rest of the prospects and staff. And if I was starting a team, he would be my number one.
He would be your first pick in a baseball draft?
He would be my number one starter.
Your number one starter.
Yeah. And that, again, no disrespect to Clayton Kershaw, who I think is probably the best pitcher in the game right now, but this kid screams one. And he does it in New York, which is it's different.
Terry Collins had him on a pitch count yesterday, 105 pitches, when he walked Brian McCann with 2 outs in the 9th inning. With a comfortable lead, that put him at 107, and Terry Collins went out and got him. Stuck to his pregame plan. They want to protect the investment. Yeah. Drew strikes out, 2 down.
I'm watching that, knowing exactly what's going through his head and exactly what he's trying to say to his manager.
8 2/3, 5 hits, 2 runs, 7 strikeouts, 1 out shy of a complete game. Matt Harvey, coming back from Tommy John surgery, is 4-0 in 4 starts.
He made really good big league hitters look like they didn't belong on the same field.
Well, there are ones.
That's a number one.
There are ones that start opening day, and then there are true ones. I don't doubt for a second that he's going to succeed in October before he pitches there, because I think mentally he's got that makeup.
And the guy he was just high-fiving in the dugout may no longer be a number one. He's not a number one anymore, although he was the opening day starter for the Mets. But you know what? Bartolo Colon's pretty amazing what he's doing right now.
What he's done for me is he's shown the pitchers, the young pitchers in the Mets staff, how powerful a located fastball can be. He's not the 100-mile-an-hour Bartolo Colon, but he still throws 91, 92, 93, and he throws over 90% fastballs. And those guys are looking at it and go, wait a minute, he throws 91, I'm throwing 98. And that's a powerful message.
In 26 innings, Colon has struck out 23 and walked 1. And he's way past the point of any kind of nerves or, I mean, he's the most relaxed cat in the ballpark right now.
And I can see that right there. Yeah. Brooklyn Nets, Knicks. Yeah. I can see Bartolo.
He could probably post up. Be a big presence under the basket.
He's not beating anybody off the dribble.
No, wouldn't have to, I don't think.
Swing and a miss by Petit to end the inning. End of 6 in the Bronx. It remains the Yankees 6 and the Mets 4. brought to you by Benjamin Moore.
Well, one of the things that you learn as a pitcher is 2 outs. 2 out, ending an inning when you get that, after you get that second out. And the Yankees, credit their hitters for good at bats, but they've managed to put a lot together with 2 outs. And it's something you learn as a pitcher that to eventually you're focused on it. Hey, I got 2 outs. Let me go and make sure this happens right now.
Chris Martin back on the mound for the Yankees. Danny Muno, who is DHing tonight for the Mets. He struck out twice. Will lead it off and take a strike over the outside corner. Looks like it could be Muno, but it is Muno. As he DHs here in the American League Park, he'll be followed by Kevin Plawecki, and then back to the top of the order for Curtis Granderson.
I said earlier in the game that Jim Wolf was very much a hitter's umpire. He's called, I think, an outstanding game so far tonight. Maybe a miss or two, I'm not sure, but he's been incredibly consistent. And I don't know about you, that was what I wanted from an umpire, Coach.
Exactly, and I agree with you. Not many times a hitter and a pitcher are going to agree on the strike zone, but very consistent.
Back goes Gardner for out number 1. Another big crowd here tonight in the Bronx. They had better than 45,000 on Friday night, better than 47,000 yesterday with Matt Harvey on the mound here at Yankee Stadium. And a large crowd again here tonight. Mostly Yankee fans, but the Mets are well represented.
Loved coming here.
Even the new park?
No, I loved coming to New York and play.
Both leagues, doesn't matter which.
Well, yeah, they disliked me a lot. So a lot of the things.
So did your teammates.
A lot of what I heard here was
at least that's the rumor. I didn't.
Yeah.
I wasn't one of them.
The things that come out of their mouth were not just vulgar, but they were funny. They were like creative.
And you appreciated that?
Well, yeah. I just always looked at it as I didn't think they wasted energy on guys that sucked.
Hey, Crucky, sign my ball, man. You're my favorite player. Go sign the ball. You hand it back to him. By the time you walk from where you signed it to back onto the field, the names you were called in that short of time. And naive me, I thought I was their favorite player. Which...
Bouncer to third, 2 down. Watch every out-of-market game live in HD on more than 400 devices with MLB.TV Premium, the #1 live streaming sports service. Real-time highlights, live look-ins, pitch tracking widget, and more every night on every device. Visit MLB.TV for details. Joe Girardi back to the mound. Left-hander Justin Wilson will be coming in to face Curtis Granderson when we come back to the Bronx after this. Find new roads. And Charles Schwab, own your tomorrow. We are in the Bronx, where the Yankees lead the Mets 6-4 seventh inning. The new pitcher is left-hander Justin Wilson, formerly of the Pittsburgh Pirates, acquired in an off-season deal for catcher Francisco Cervelli. Granderson has homered and struck out twice. And a 96-mile-an-hour fastball finds the edge of the strike zone. 1-1. The shift is on again, as it has been all night for Granderson. The Yankees feature a bullpen full of hard throwers, and they're getting some big numbers out of their pen. Very good production and a lot of strikeouts. And Joe Girardi knows just about any time that bullpen door swings open out in deep right center, he's bringing in somebody who can throw the ball by someone.
You got a fastball hitter looking for a fastball in a fastball count.
And he took a fastball low, 3-1. Wilson averages better than 94 miles an hour on his fastball, second on the team only to Delano Betances. Martin, who we saw earlier this inning and last inning, he's at almost 94. Andrew Miller, who is about as unhittable these days as any reliever in baseball. Betances, by the way, up in the bullpen right now.
Talking to Andrew Miller before the game, and he mentioned about he said, I'm the junk baller in the bullpen.
A pop up to end the inning. 7th inning stretch. Subway Series. Yankees 6, Mets 4 in New York. Hashtag #RepMyTeam. And got all kinds of great pictures sent in by Yankee and Met fans alike. Here on this Sunday night, we go to the bottom of the 7th here in the Bronx. Rubber match of the Subway Series. The Yankees lead the Mets 6-4 in an error and extra base hit filled evening, as the Yankees will send up the top of the order Gardner, Young, and Rodriguez. Rodriguez is homer tonight, number 659. Barry Bonds is baseball's all-time leader at 762. Hank Aaron, 755. Babe Ruth, 714. Willie Mays at 660, and Alex Rodriguez sitting one shy of tying Mays for 4th on the all-time list.
We're having a little technical difficulty. We'll get the mics back to the guys in the booth in a moment. Brett Gardner flying out to center field. Chris Young at the plate. Dan, you got it all worked out. Back to you.
All right, Buster. Thank you. We do.
What button did you hit?
Buster did that.
Oh, okay. I can see that.
He wanted to do a little play-by-play.
You know what? I'm tired of you guys blaming Buster for everything.
Buster, that was a nice play-by-play debut, by the way.
Yes. Buster, take Dan's place. We got to get rid of. He's thrown you under the bus twice in the last 2 weeks.
We're with you, Buster.
Well, you know what? I realized then how big shoes Dan has to fill, okay?
You want to keep going? You want to take us through the rest of your bet?
You can take it from here, Dan.
3-0 the count on Young. 1 for 3 tonight. Had an RBI single back in the second. Alex Rodriguez on deck. And a strike from Goodell. 3-1. Big inning tonight was the second. The Yankees got 4 in the second inning. Took the lead. Mets got back within a run with 2 in the third. Mets added a run in the 5th. And it is 6-4 Yankees here in the bottom of the 7th. Yankees won Friday. Mets winning yesterday. Yankees leading tonight. Three-2. Pulled foul. Nice grab. And a swing and a miss by Young. 2 down, back down to Buster.
It did. I was going to disagree with you. You mentioned that you think that the issue between the Yankees and Alex Rodriguez could blow up. I think this relationship has got to be so, I guess, for lack of a better word, professional, because of the past tension, the past lawsuits, all the issues in the past. I think this is just going to be another case of that. I think Alex will continue to go about his business of being a player. The Yankees will go about their business, and, hey, they're not going to love each other, but I don't think it's going to change the relationship as it stands today.
They're out stepping in at 6:59. I just wonder how it plays out in the press and how the average Yankee fan in the Bronx feels about it.
Well, that's where I think you can't control that part of it. Yeah. No matter what you want to say, or either side wants to say, the media is going to do what the media is going to do, and I think that's where it's going to be a problem. Because I think they're going to end up going to his teammates if he doesn't talk about it.
Line to left and caught by Cuddyer to end the inning. 7 in the books. A-Rod still at 6-5-9. Yankees up 6-4. Comes in out of the Yankee pen, and a guy who gave them a little bit of concern in the spring, but he is off to a good start now as the 8th inning guy, though, for the Yankees. More on him in a moment, but first, with the fight coming up Saturday night, Pacquiao and Mayweather, Sports Center's on site in Vegas all week. Let's send it to Stan Verrett and Neil Everett. All right, guys, thank you. Welcome back to the Bronx. Dan Schulman, John Kruk, Kurt Schilling, Buster Olney. Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN. Dellin Betances making his 9th appearance of the season. He has yet to give up an earned run. Been a little erratic with his control. 7 walks in 9 1/3 with 12 strikeouts. And he comes on here trying to work through the 8th inning and maintain this 2-run lead. Juan Lagares leads it off for the Mets.
I don't know if you remember this, Cracky. You remember when the Yankees had Wetland and Rivera's first year or two?
Yes.
This is, I obviously don't want to compare him to Rivera, but that's kind of what this feels like with Miller and Betances. Big boy.
And probably plan A was for him to be the closer, although they signed Miller in the offseason. And again, Betances didn't have a great spring, so it kind of evolved into Miller becoming the closer. I mean, this guy was a force last year.
Well, you know what? We can go back to the starting pitcher tonight. When you look at Evaldi, he throws harder pretty consistently, but it's about command and location. This guy pitches. He doesn't just throw.
98 doesn't hurt.
Nope.
Elevated 98 too is a little bit harder. Some things in life just aren't fair. And 6'9" and throwing 90, 96, 97, and 2 strikes. Let me just try to get one 98. And
well, as soon as I said he pitches, he doesn't throw. He reaches back and throws one about as hard as he can. He's got more in the tank too. You see how that delivery, almost like Goose Gossage, going backwards. This is why you got to feel good about their bullpen.
Yeah, not saying that they can rival Kansas City or anything like that.
No.
The Royals have a phenomenal bullpen, but you got Betances and Miller at the end, in whatever order you decide to use them. Right now, it's Betances in the 8th, Miller in the 9th.
Well,
you sleep well at night if you're Joe Girardi.
I think what it honestly does to both clubs is it makes the game 7 instead of 9 or 6 instead of 9, and managers manage their offense differently.
More and more teams seem to be fortifying their bullpen, trying to fortify their bullpen. Sometimes it costs you a ton of money to build a rotation, but you can sometimes put together a bullpen a lot more inexpensively than you can a rotation.
If you listen to some of the good GMs, I know Theo Epstein, his opinion was, I can build a bullpen every winter.
And the Yankees have pretty much remade theirs in the last year, other than the Betances.
Oh,
wow. How you feeling, Crucky? Let me hear it. You know what I want you to say.
Well, I said it about Matt Harvey. He made a lot of good hitters yesterday. Looked like, you know, they were new at this game. And right now, Dellin Betances has made two pretty good guys who are hot right now just kind of flail aimlessly. I mean,
look at that downward action is ridiculous.
Yeah, that's the thing, too. Look where it starts at 6'9". It probably starts at Duda's waist and then ends up in the dirt.
And then he drops the 79 on you.
Yeah, for strike one.
What I was hoping for, Crucky, was stay in school, kids.
Yeah.
Look at the rotation. His fastball. He spins the ball so hard, it's hard to pick up rotation.
Oy.
I'm not laughing at him. I'm with him.
Look, Cuddyer had a little giggle too.
Yeah.
He knew this ain't real fair because now he's probably thinking, okay, he's a two-pitch pitcher. He can get me out with three different ones now.
Oh.
Wow. And Cuddyer's got a chance to beat it out, and he will. It'll be a strikeout and a wild pitch.
That's a smart hitter. That's a smart hitter.
Yep.
It's just swing at this one that's bouncing. And he's
no way he's going to stop it.
He's going to make the greatest 0-2 pitch ever, and he's going to bounce it, and I'm going to swing and run to first. Watch Cuddyer. It wasn't like did he even look back? I mean, he swung. He's like, all right. He did take a peek back.
So a strikeout and a wild pitch. The inning's still alive, and the batter is Daniel Murphy.
Can he strike out 4, Danny boy?
Oh, yeah.
Well, how about this? In Betances' short major league career against the Mets, here's what the Mets are against Betances. 0 for 8 with 8 strikeouts.
So they're due.
A ground ball would be a moral victory.
Yeah.
97 at the knees.
If you watch that pitch, the slow-mo from the right side, look at the grip here. This is so weird. He's got his breaking ball. He's holding it between the seams. I don't know how you can. I know you can make a ball break that way, but that's a power breaking ball. And he's holding. Everybody I know had to have a seam in their hand. He's literally between the seams and making the ball spin that way.
Well, there's the ground ball to second.
We have victory.
What a job by Betances. 6-4 Yankees going to the bottom of the 8th in the Bronx. Official youth skills competition of Major League Baseball. It's free for boys and girls ages 7 to 14. Play your way to the national finals and have the chance to compete during All-Star Week in Cincinnati. Find a local competition in your area at pitchhitrun.com. Bottom 8 at Yankee Stadium with the Yankees leading the Mets 6-4. And the new pitcher for the Mets is left-hander Alex Torres. And right away, what you'll notice is the hat that Torres is wearing. He is the one and only, to my knowledge, current Major League pitcher who is wearing kind of the new prototype for hats that are supposed to provide a little more safety for pitchers. As Mark Teixeira swings at the first pitch, skies one. Here comes Torres. He will give ground to Campbell. One down. And this new hat, Torres was wearing a different one last year. This is actually kind of an exterior wrap that goes on top of a regular baseball cap. Torres was once a teammate of Alex Cobb in Tampa Bay. Cobb was hit in the head by a line drive, and Torres, for the last couple of years, has been the one pitcher in the big leagues, guys, who has said, you know what, I want to do whatever I can to be as safe as I can out there on the mound.
At some point, I think you're going to see more.
I agree, and I don't think Major League Baseball will ever make it mandatory. But I agree with Kurt. I think you're going to see a lot more pitchers as the years roll on start wearing them.
I don't know what it feels like to wear, but I guarantee you 90% of the people that aren't wearing it because it doesn't look good.
Well, that was with the other one that he wore last year, was the player said, well, it just didn't look good.
Yeah.
One to Beltran. Schill, if you were pitching today and somebody came into a clubhouse and presented this to you, would you consider it?
It depends on how it felt. I don't know. I mean, it looks so different, but I don't know. I don't know how it feels, and that to me would be the biggest thing. Is, does it feel any different? If it doesn't feel any different, I have to think about it. But when you think about how many pitchers are in the big leagues and one guy's doing it.
Fly ball to center. And Beltran continues to struggle. An 0 for 4 night, a smattering of boos here in the Bronx. Well, earlier tonight there was a liner back to the mound. Caught by Nice, but the reaction time is a fraction of a second.
And if that ball was higher, he couldn't have gotten it because that's where his glove was. Look where his glove is. He barely had to move his glove. If that ball's hit higher toward the chest or face area, it hits him, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Meanwhile, Alex Torres is also a pretty good relief pitcher and a pretty important part of this Met bullpen. As he has gotten the first 2 outs here in the 8th inning. Facing Chase Headley, who's 1 for 3, doubled his last time out.
I know Gary Templeton was grandfathered in the no ear flap helmet. And depending on who was pitching, if the guy was a little wild, he put on an ear flap helmet. And he said it was just for protection, and it made him feel safer.
Up high, ball 2. Andrew Miller.
The junk baller, he's like. He said, my little 94-mile-an-hour fastball ain't nothing anymore.
This would be one of those guys, Crucky, where you as a left-handed batter in there against him, you'd provide some entertainment up there.
Why?
Well, you had I don't know whether it was the
but
rain.
That was a meaningless game.
I know.
Now, well,
you gave the fans what they wanted.
It was yeah, I think Andrew Miller would remind me of John Candelaria.
Right, you brought that name up earlier today.
Oh man, that was no fun.
I mean, it's got to look. Miller's about 6'7". It's got to look like it's coming from first base. Right?
And so was Candy, and that's the thing when they crossfire it, and
the ball starts out somewhere around the on deck circle.
Yeah, starts at the on deck circle and ends up down and away.
We'll get a chance to see Miller momentarily. Torres gets the Yankees in order. We are going to the 9th. Miller on his way in. Yankees lead the Mets 6-4. Generation of breakfast. Wake up, live Moss. And in part by BMW. We only make one thing, the ultimate driving machine. 9th inning in the Bronx. Yankees 6, Mets 4. Left-hander Andrew Miller. He's into the game for the Yankees, looking for his 7th save of the year. Pretty incredible numbers. 7 1/3, 2 hits, 15 strikeouts in 7 1/3.
This is like Craig Kimbrell setting up Billy Wagner.
Eric Campbell with a fly ball down the left field line. Racing over is Gardner to make the catch. Now time for our high strength performance, brought to you by Chevy Silverado. Miller closing. Betances working the 8th. And he had it going on, fellas.
Well, that's as good as stuff you're going to see. Coming out of the bullpen or starting. I mean, that's just unfair.
Well, it's why you want swing and miss pitchers in the bullpen, because you take away chance. You take away, the opportunity to make errors or to make plays for guys to find holes.
And if they do put it in play, they make an error, they can correct it.
Yep.
And make up for the defense's mistakes.
Miller, a guy, big lanky left-hander, and of course, Show, you played with an even bigger, lankier left-hander, and Randy Johnson. Sometimes it seems like it takes these guys a little bit longer to kind of harness the mechanics and get it all going in the right direction, but boy, has he figured it out.
Yeah, and he's the guy that was the first-round pick when Detroit took him initially, and it does, because there are more moving parts.
Wow. And the slider on the 0-2 pitch hits Flores in the foot.
Hey, you want me to say it? That doesn't feel good. I mean, that is. I mean, watch this ball just chase it. Look, it chases Flores. He can't go anywhere. There's nowhere he can go right now. He tries to back up, and it just keeps chasing him, and it missed that.
Right on the ankle.
That they hit him right on the ankle bone.
Yeah. And he'll stay. So Flores down to first, and John Mayberry Jr. is going to pinch hit for Danny Muno. Representing the game's tying run with the 1 out here in the 9th inning.
If he hits a fastball anything like his dad did, he's got a shot.
Look at the movement on that slider.
He hit Flores in the front foot, and he's trying to hit Mayberry in the back one now. Show you his command with it.
Fastball away, ball 2.
Oh, if I'm Mayberry right now, I'm guessing. I'm the biggest guess hitter in all baseball, and I'm looking for a fastball in the center of the plate, and I'm trying to tie this thing up.
He got the fastball, but he missed it.
And that's not a fastball in the middle. That's ball 3, and that's the difference between a guy who's a very good hitter and a guy who's struggling. The guy who's struggling, 2-0, you're thinking, I'm going to be a hero and make up for my 170 batting average, and you swing a 2-0 pitch, it's a foot out of the strike zone. And now it opens it up for that.
Now everything's open.
That's what I mean. It's you know, instead of a 3-0 count where Miller has to throw a get-me-over fastball, which he would probably be taking, you know, now it's 2-1 and you have to protect. You don't want to get 2-2 on a fastball pitcher, and that's what or strikeout pitcher, and that's what happened.
Checks the swing on the slider, and the count is full.
You know, you can tell how nasty some guys are by the fact he's getting almost a check swing on a ball that almost hits him.
Tying run at the play with 1 out in the 9th inning. Mayberry facing Miller. Got him.
Well, this whole at bat for me changed on the 2-0 pitch that John Mayberry chased out of the strike zone. But you watch here, slider, fastball away. Now he can't command the slider or the fastball, but you help him on the 2-0 pitch by swinging a pitch out of the zone. Now he doesn't have to throw a strike. He can go out of the strike zone to get you to swing and to be aggressive because he knows you want to try to tie this game up. And then the 3-2 slider that had Mayberry so far out in front. Not fair.
Well, that's the difference in stuff. He threw one ball in the strike zone for a strikeout, and that was the last pitch, the 3-2 pitch.
So it's up to Kevin Plawecki with less than a week of big league experience. Grounded to short. Yankees win it. The Yankees take 2 out of 3 from the Mets, who came in here on an 11-game winning streak. And the Yankees up their record to 11-8, off to a good start this season, especially considering the way the first week went. The Mets dropped to 14-5, still with the best record in baseball. Alex Rodriguez homered, number 659 for him. And 5 Yankee relievers were terrific tonight as they beat the Mets 6-4. For John Kruk, Kurt Schilling, Buster Olney, and our entire crew, I'm Dan Schulman saying thanks for watching. And so long from Yankee Stadium. And now let's send it to Sports Center in Las Vegas. Here are Stan Perret and Neil Everett.